Greetings, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Sitting with Maurice, in which we discuss thoughts, passages, and ideas from psychological commentaries on the teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Maurice Nicole. It's a most extraordinary series of books. Before this episode, I wanted to show something that I thought was almost a beautiful symbol of our current times, but maybe just of life in general. So this right here is a fig tree. It's a Celeste fig specifically. I purchased it last year and planted it last year in the summer, which was kind of foolish. It's too hot here to plant trees in the middle of summer. But anyway, so the tree was in rough shape from the moment that I bought it. It was stuck in the back of the nursery. And at the time, I didn't know enough to be selective with my tree purchases. So it was rough to begin with. It kind of struggled through the summer, but it did survive. But then this winter, we got a really strange freeze, and all my trees got zapped pretty bad. But this guy got really zapped, and so I pruned it even further down. The top of it was just straight up dead. And I just thought this thing was dead. I mean, look at it. It's a stick. It's just a stick, right? I thought this thing was dead, lost, and gone. And a couple days ago, I come out and I see this. Look at this new growth. Now, with trees, normally, with fruiting trees particularly, you always want to prune around the base because you want it to grow as a tree rather than a bush. And figs especially will just bush out rather than tree out. But because this one, I'm amazed that it's even surviving at all. I'm just going to let it grow how it wants to grow. I'm not going to mess with it anymore, other than things that I know will help its health. Pruning is good for the health. But I'm no longer going to try to force it to be a tree. I'm going to let it be what it wants to be, because I'm just happy that it's alive. I thought that was really kind of poetic and symbolic for the mad times that we are living through, and possibly for life in general. And that is connected actually with this, what I want to discuss from Maurice Nicole's commentaries, which we will get into now. So this commentary was a shorter one, but it left me with an idea that I definitely wanted to discuss. And here, let me just read it. This is the last part of this section, which sums up the core, what I take away as the core importance of this part. So, but work must be done in the spirit of the work, that is, in the sense of feeling and valuation of the work. This must enter into every effort of work, for no one can work for himself alone. Otherwise, the results go only into false personality, and so into merit. I want to say that again because I think it's the most important part of this commentary. This must enter into every effort of work, for no one can work for himself alone. Otherwise, the results go only into false personality, and so into merit. A man must work from love of the work. This brings hydrogen 12 up to the place of incoming impressions. Incoming impressions are hydrogen 48. They cannot pass to hydrogen 24 without hydrogen 12 as active force. If this hydrogen is present at the place of reception of impressions, that is, at the place we are conscious, hydrogen 48, which comes in as passive force, passes to hydrogen 24, the triad being completed by the carbon 12. Hydrogen 12 is not present naturally at this point in the human machine. It has to be brought up to this point. And now here, the whole hydrogen-carbon thing, if you haven't been reading Nicole, Gurdjieff, etc., then that probably just sounds like gobbledygook. But it's okay. That is not important to understanding, grasping the essence of this next part. If a person takes life as usual in the ordinary way, that is, always receives impressions in the same mechanical way and speaks from them in the same mechanical way and acts from them in the same mechanical way, then nothing can change in the person. Such people cannot evolve. They do not see where the point of working on themselves lies. They think work is something outside them. A person must bring a very powerful hydrogen to the point where impressions are coming in. This is hydrogen 12. Now, the part of that really struck me was the sentence, A man must work from love of the work, and this must enter into every effort of work, for no one can work for himself alone. Otherwise, the results go only into false personality and so into merit. Now, we have to remember that these commentaries in this book were mostly taken from letters that Nicole wrote to people. And so they weren't like exhaustively edited and revised and thought upon. So I feel like in some parts he is, I don't want to say incomplete with his thoughts, but I believe he would have been more complete if he had been writing these books for formal publication, with the expectation on the front end that they were going to be collected and published. And now I don't know that. That's just my suspicion after reading the book and just thinking about it. But the part that really struck me again is a man must work from love of the work, and he cannot work for himself alone. And this reminds me of some time back, I forget who it was, but I believe they were talking about the Bodhisattvas in Buddhist traditions, and saying that, it was in one of Mark Stavish's book, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. Point is, they said there are two aims that make sense. One is to seek personal illumination, and the other is to seek personal illumination for the purpose of illuminating our fellow humanity. Now, that really hit home for me, just as this passage from Nicole hit home for me, because personally, I believe, just as somebody who has this burning heart, to me, it's all about achieving illumination in order to help liberate my fellow human beings. Now, believe me when I say this, I fully expect at this point that I will die without ever achieving true illumination. I accept that, and there's nothing you can do. It's just like your 12th round of a losing fight. Yeah, well, you're losing, but what do? You go out swinging, right? You got to give it your best. That's how I look at this. I'm going to give it my best for this stretch of life, however much life I am blessed to have. But I don't realistically think I will achieve illumination at this point. But I see no other goal that is worth trying. Like, what else is there? So focus all of my energies on accruing cars and material junk. Focus all my energies on getting laid. Focus all my energies on traveling to exotic places. I mean, all of those things strike me fundamentally as very empty. Now, that's not to say, like, we're living this life, and part of life is adventure and experience, and I'm not trying to poo-poo that. I think those things are essential, but I just think that ultimately, and this is what all spiritual traditions teach, right? That ultimately they cannot lead to any kind of long-term satisfaction. It's just the nature of the human mind that all of our gratification, all of our satisfaction, all of our sensory impulses, it's not a moral thing, it's not a value judgment, it's just a literal factual truth that they cannot hold any long-term significance for us. We flit from one sensory impulse to the next. You can have the greatest sex in your life, but you know what, a week later you just want to have sex again, right? And it's almost like that last time never even happened. So that's definitely not to say that things like sex and cool cars and all that stuff are useless. Again, I am simply saying that to keep them in balance and to understand and look at them for what they really are, which are novelties to the machine parts of our being. They are not worthwhile ends, in my opinion. And so what is a worthwhile end? Even personal illumination, if I just think of that, like, so what, am I just going to float in outer space, blissed out in nirvana? Like, who cares? What's the point of that even? To me, it ultimately comes down to getting there in order to liberate others, my friends and my family, the people that I love, and then expand out to the whole world. And again, I'm not a guru. I don't claim to be in that place, but I'm trying for that place. I'm striving for that place. And so this part from Maurice and Nicole just really it connected with me for the same reason that statement that I read about the Bodhisattvas connected with me. I just think there's deep truth in there, and finding your own motivation. And if you are somebody who is just motivated by seeking personal illumination, awesome. Again, this isn't a value judgment thing. I'm just saying that perhaps if you are a person who kind of looks at the world and has that Albert Camus moment of, why in the hell are we here? This is all pointless. Even the spiritual stuff ultimately seems pointless. Maybe a reframe that can help you is to focus on delivering wisdom and liberation to others, right? Because that's what helped get me into motion. And so it's just something useful to consider. You know, in Moby Dick, Ishmael spends the whole book seeking meaning and seeking understanding and wisdom and purpose in this grand hunt for the whale and the grand voyage on the sea. But then there's the moment, the sperm handling scene. And this is whale sperm, you dirty birds. Not. It's after they've killed the whale and they are. What's the word for it? Where they're getting all of the essential oils and materials out of it that the whale is used for. And it's called whale sperm. And there's a scene where they're just doing this work, him and all the other guys, and he just has this kind of moment of this flash of illumination where he realizes that that's what it's all about, man. It's the meaning of life is each other. Even our simple daily craft or work a day, boring things can take on meaning if you can reframe it as working with and serving your fellow human beings, right? Easier said than done. I know I work with some really annoying people sometimes and some really annoying freelance clients. So believe me, I know, man, I know. But if we can reframe it that way, it can be a powerful thing. And and so that's what came to my mind reading this commentary from this great book. All right. Peace out, everybody.